is the guy that shot and killed Stanford White in front of 100 people at a dinner theater in New York City. He was a deranged individual. Many folks said he should have been locked up years earlier, but he took the death of Stanford White and finally put him away. Now, my favorite cottage in Newport here is Rough Point. Straight ahead of us here, where we left the right as we turn here, built by Frederick Vanderbilt in 1888. Now, in 1922, James Buchanan Duke purchases Rough Point, and he dies kind of young, 1925. So he leaves the great portion of his fortune to his 12-year-old daughter, Doris, over $100 million, said to be the richest young lady in the world. So Rough Point here, Doris Duke spent quite a bit of time here later on in life. She took artwork from the Duke Farm in New Jersey, moved it here. Took artwork from the New York City mansion when she sold it, moved it here. She'd be here in the summers, Hawaii in the winters. She established the Newport Restoration Foundation in 1968. Jackie Kennedy, a good friend, was the vice president of that organization for a while. And they've restored over 80 houses and buildings here, and a number of them are museums. So you look at the gate entrance here at Rough Point, it is a museum. And her request is, when she passed away in 1993, don't touch anything, just make it a museum. So when you go through there, you really get a sense of someone living there, and Doris Duke was there. She was a very interesting lady, 6 foot tall, great active. She was a surfer and kayaker. All right, so anyone ever been to, you know the Belmont Stakes, right? Belmont Racetrack? Yeah. Named for August Belmont and the great Belmont Banking Company. So coming up on the left here is Belcourt Castle. This was built by Oliver Hazzy Perry Belmont. Now, his father was August Belmont. His great maternal uncle was Oliver Hazzy Perry, the Commodore, so he took his name. Now, if you were ever invited here, you probably wouldn't go to the ground floor, because the ground floor, the entire ground floor of this castle, consisted of 28 stables. 28 of his prize thoroughbreds lived on the ground floor. They're treated better than the people. Very elaborate accommodations. So Belmonts love their horses. On the right is Miramar. Now remember, the ocean's behind this. Cliff walk back there. You're looking at France here, right? Now it was under construction in 1912 by the Weiner family out of Philadelphia. They decided to travel to Europe, come back and have a grand opening. They took their oldest son, Harold. He took the trip to Europe. He was a Harvard graduate and a book collector. He wanted to collect some books in London. And they returned on the Titanic. So Mr. Weiner and his son, Harold, and their valet placed Mrs. and a chambermaid in the lifeboat, and they say goodbye. So the 3 men go down the Titanic. She would return kind of low-key here after that, but she donated millions to the Harvard University library system, and eventually established the Harold Weiner Memorial Library on campus. If you ever go there, it's over 100,000 volumes. So on the right here is Clarendon Court coming up. It's kind of hidden behind the walls here, built by Edward Knight of the Pennsylvania Railroad. And I'll go kind of slow if you look at the gates here. There's a pretty good movie, a musical in the early 60s, High Society, with Frank Sinatra, Bing Crosby, Grace Kelly, all shot at Clarendon Court here. But this was the home of Klaus von Bülow. I want to let the bus go by us. We're kind of just coming to the bus stop. All right, that's bus 67. We have to let him keep rolling. No problem, buddy. So you know who Klaus von Bülow was? Anyone familiar with Klaus von Bülow? See, he lived there in the 1970s. There was a really high-profile case. They say in 1979, he injected his wife with insulin and tried to kill her.
Oh my God.
And she went into a coma. So in 1981, he was convicted of attempted murder. But he appealed, and he got his appeal case held up in Providence in state court, and he got off. He left the country. He died in London about 3 years ago. He was around 95 years old. His wife, Sunny, as she was known, remained in a coma in New York Presbyterian Hospital for over 30 years. And it's a pretty good movie, Reversal of a Fortune. Glenn Close is in the movie. It's about the trial of the Providence. All right, so coming up on the right here, we have William K. Vanderbilt and his wife, Alva. You know, they had a 900-acre country estate on the South Shore of Long Island known as Idlehour. They have a mansion in New York City, so why not have a cottage in Newport? So they built a marble house here on the right. So this is 500,000 cubic feet of marble. Marble. Much of the marble actually from local, if you will, up the Hudson River, although a lot of marble from Italy and other places around the world. Now, this was completed in 1892, and the final price tag is about $11 million. Now,